This training series is brought to you by the Running Centre. Whether you're gearing up for Sydney, City to Surf, Melbourne, or the Perth Running Festival, the Running Centre is your destination for sports nutrition and all your running gear. Use code WARP15 at checkout to score 15% off all running gear and nutrition in-store or online. The Running Centre. Let's move together. This training series is brought to you by Bix Nutrition and the newly established Reach PB Sports, supporting the likes of Stuart McSwain, Matt Ramsden, Rose Davies, and trail superstar Philemon Kiriago. Bix products deliver the perfect balance of carbs, electrolytes, and micronutrients with a light, clean, natural taste, ideal for endurance training, racing, and recovery. Reach products give you what it takes to push beyond your reach, setting new benchmarks, breaking them over and over again, redefining and reinventing your limits with the essential nutrition you need to reach higher. Use code WARP for 20% off your next order of Bix and Reach products.
Hi everyone and welcome to Road to Kwinana Freeway. This WA running podcast training series will follow 4 athletes as they walk toward their goals at the 2025 Perth Running Festival. You might ask why we have settled on this title. Well, Simon and I like to appreciate and celebrate the more difficult components of courses, and when we cover our training series, you might remember the Bunbury Lighthouse series. This infamous out and back along the Kwinana Freeway is, in our opinion, probably the toughest segment of any road race in WA. And these 2 athletes with us here tonight might be able to echo that. Simon and I were last year driving the 445 bus, and we witnessed a number of souls taken on that freeway. And I think I've lost my soul there once or twice before too. For this series, we've elected to mix things up a little bit by splitting the athlete group into 2. So with specialists joining us for each of the episodes to provide a little bit of guidance to the athletes ahead of race day. We have some big things planned in the coming months, including a live show at the Running Centre, which for a pre-race preview and interview with each of the athletes so please keep an ear out for details on that. Now, joining us today, we have someone I would describe as the poster girl for the WA Marathon Club, embodying everything great about the running community here in WA. Incredibly open on social media about the trials and tribulations of her running journey as a wife and mum of 3 kids. An absolute gem, and one we're very excited to hear from over the next few months. Nita Traeger, how are you?
Hi, that is a very nice introduction. Thank you, Chris. It's so lovely.
Yeah, very, very happy to have you, Nita. Now, I mentioned you are the poster girl for the Marathon Club. You always seem to have a smile on your face. What is your secret, and can you teach Simon to relax on trams?
Well, there's no secret. You're actually dying, but when you see those photographers there, you just gotta smile. What did they say? You gotta fake it till you make it. So
Yeah.
there you go. But you gotta have this side to make
That's all
it
you
even
need.
better. Yes.
Yeah, very good. Nice. And I noticed actually your Strava profile reads that you started running because hiding in the bathroom wasn't enough. Can you explain?
What does that even mean?
Because all the time, every time I say to my kids, so, I'm just going to go to the toilet. I'll just letting them know where I am. And then the next, not even a minute, the next second, boom, it's like Avenger Assemble. They're all there. So the only I could really have my time is the longer I run, the more time I have for me.
Just
Their dad
spending
can have them.
prolonged
Yes.
periods on the toilet too. That's good. Very good.
Yes.
Very good. No, great to have you, Nita. Now, we also have a bloke who requires probably no introduction, but we'll give him one anyway. A professional hockey athlete who has been recently hung up his cleats for and his duathlon cap, I guess you'd call it, and is now throwing all of his focus into running. When we asked why he is a weapon of warp, his answer was that he was the best looking bloke that's ever been on this podcast. Rapid times across all distances, but notably a marathon PB of 2:22 with the potential to go well below the coveted 220 mark. Matt Smith, welcome to the podcast.
I'm a pretty good-looking stud, no?
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, you're okay. You're all right.
Especially at 7:45. Yeah,
solid 3 out of 10 after 10 beers. I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic to have you, mate. So, the best-looking bloke on the podcast. When you were on the podcast on episode 31, how did you feel looking into the dark, piercing gaze of Matt Maguire?
He's an intimidating guy, isn't he?
Yeah,
he is.
Yeah, he can look you right in the soul and make you feel things.
Yeah, a few tingles.
I love Matty. No, it was really good.
Yeah, nice. We spoke about Nita's race photos, but I think some of the greatest finish line photos I've seen on Strava come from Smithy, and that iconic salute from the Bustleton half. Do you think about these beforehand?
Yes. Normally there is hours of sauna discussion with me and the boys if I've at least got a sniff at winning a race, it gets discussed. We've had some pretty good ones in the past, and then you can sort of tell when we haven't discussed it because I sort of get to the finish line and then I panic and then I end up looking like an angry gorilla or something. So yeah, we do like to discuss the celebrations. I'm not quite Jack Ginnivan level of celebrations yet, but if I win a couple more races, I'll pull a few out. There's some diabolical ones in there that I think would get me cancelled, but we might keep those sort of local park run, I think.
Fantastic. And just one more question before we intro our next guest. Zada Googie Shlum Shlum. Can you translate that for me?
Yeah, it means it's a nice sunny day and we should go for a run.
Oh, beautiful.
Very good.
Add that to the vocabulary.
Yeah.
I was always wondering, what does that mean? Now I know.
Shisha blum blum means whatever you want it to mean. Yeah, you can say it in anger, you can say it in joy. Whatever you want it to be.
Okay.
Fantastic stuff. And finally, our specialist for this evening, here to talk all things nutrition and returning to the show for, I think, the third time, the wise and always entertaining Gabby Veer. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me again. Very excited to be here.
Great to have you, Gabby. Thank you for saying yes again, for joining Simon and I. And obviously, we're going to provide a little bit of perspective tonight, which we mightn't have heard before, which would be awesome. Now, I guess we asked all of our athletes to complete a questionnaire before they appeared on the podcast. And Nita said that she's Indonesian and therefore carb loading is breakfast, lunch and dinner. Rice is life. Just one little point. And then Smithy reckons he eats, he's more of a spag bowl guy, but he also mentioned bacon and egg McMuffins. So it sounds like he's got a pretty well-rounded diet. Perhaps, it would be good to understand holistically how we should be fueling our bodies as we train for marathons, half marathons, things like that. Not just in the weeks before, like the days before, but also in the weeks that we're training hard to get the most out of our training. So I guess to start things off, assuming someone does not have any specific dietary requirements, what are the kind of baseline ideas behind fueling appropriately to sustainably train at a high level?
I love it. So there's a framework that I often refer to when I'm talking to someone who is at this stage where we are preparing towards an event, and it's called TAP. So it's training, adaptation, performance. And when we look at why we're doing that training, as in why right now we're doing those long sessions or intervals or whatever, the purpose of that training is to trigger a physiological adaptation in our body. That is literally what that training is stimulating. So it means that we need that training stimuli, we need the adaptation, and the P for performance is so that way you go and execute this on race day. So the reason I'm referring to that is because when we understand that journey and what the purpose of these months leading to that marathon are, it's easier to see the objective that nutrition has. So essentially, the purpose of that nutrition right now is to support those training adaptations, is to ensure that the adaptations are occurring. And for us to achieve that, there's two key areas that we need to look at. One is going to be the daily nutrition, which is a part of, is your body getting enough energy? Are you getting all essential nutrients? When I look at nutrients and we look at the training adaptations, those are the building blocks. Essentially, training is in charge of, I say like very abruptly, destroying, let's say, or like essentially shaking things down. And then those nutrients are going to be the building blocks building this. So when we look at that daily nutrition, we need to be very mindful of ensuring that that's present. Always starting with, is there enough energy in the diet? So that's a big one. And then the second component is the training nutrition per se, in terms of how are we making sure that two key things happen. One, that you show up to the training session and you are able to complete it as you were meant to. So it means that you have the energy to go from beginning to end as you should. And if, let's say, you're doing 10 intervals, that interval number 10 is as good as it was at number 1. And the second thing is that, of course, that adaptation occurs. So it's how are we, especially the recovery part, how are we supporting that to ensure that the magic happens, essentially? If that training session was targeting a particular system, that the nutrition is enabling that. So broadly, those are the main things that we're looking at. And of course, we can dive into more specifics, but first is important to understand what are the things that we want to look at and why nutrition matters at this stage.
Yeah, amazing. Great answer, actually. Super interesting to hear about it from the perspective of getting the most out of your training in terms of those adaptations, and making sure that you're actually, when you're going out and doing a session, presumably if you're not fueling it and you go out and you kill yourself doing this session, it could not necessarily all for nothing, but obviously making those adaptations is more difficult, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially what happens is that if we have, let's say, that stimuli, that training session, that it's shaking things down, but we don't have the things to rebuild it, it means that things are getting harder and harder, and it's very difficult to sustain that. And instead of seeing that improvement, we're seeing either things plateauing, or if even worst case scenario, going downhill, where the athlete starts experiencing injuries, or it's hard to sustain the training load, and those things that we obviously don't want to see. We want totally the opposite. So absolutely makes a massive difference there.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess one thing that we see a lot of is people fasting before some of their runs, whether they be, maybe it's just their easy run for an hour, or maybe they're kind of fasting their long runs for some reason. Is there any benefit to doing that, provided in the long term, you're still getting the nutrients you need to perform?
So for a long time, the bigger proponents of that approach of let's do faster training are using the idea that if you are not fueling before your training session, it means that your body is going to tap into the fat stores, which means that that training session essentially will help you become more efficient at utilizing fat, which is a energy that is helpful, essentially, or something that we all will use during a marathon to a certain degree. The thing is that we know that it's way more efficient to use carbohydrate. And for someone who is targeting a really fast marathon, and it like a really fast marathon is regardless of the time, right? Like a very fast marathon for me can be easily 1 hour and a half, way more slower than Matt, but essentially it's still something that for me is high intensity. So what that means is that I'm better off using carbohydrate or targeting that efficiency instead of pushing my body to a struggle trying to process the fat. And the thing is that now we know that the training itself, regardless of you fueling or not, is still going to stimulate the use of that fat, because you 100% are going to use it. So that fat adaptation is going to happen regardless. So you're better off helping your body become efficient at using more carbohydrate that is going to be that fast fuel, than sacrificing that and essentially also leading to underfueling, because now we're missing another opportunity to include some calories there. So I wouldn't say I'm against faster training, but I'm not a promoter either. So essentially it means that if there are occasional training sessions where we are not fueling beforehand, that's okay, but I still would suggest doing it as much as possible. I do understand that a lot of people were train really, really early, and makes it really challenging to feel comfortable fueling before that run. However, if we think of how we are planning to be essentially consuming energy gels or whatever fuel during the marathon while we're still running, it's a good skill to develop to eat and run essentially. So as much as it's challenging, there are ways we can work around it so you don't have to sacrifice more sleep in order to eat, because that's definitely not what I will advise.
For sure. I think we had an athlete on our last series who couldn't eat the day before, the morning of a race. So I guess what she was trying to do was eat killer pythons, because that was basically all she could chew on. I guess the anxiety gets to you at some point, or your race nerves, and so actually getting food down for some people is quite difficult. I thought it was interesting what you said about the way you described that process of kind of using fats and carbohydrates. It sounds a lot like, in some ways, gut training, in that you're training your body to use carbohydrates more efficiently, by actually introducing the carbohydrates. Is that how I'm understanding it? Is that correct?
Yeah, pretty much. So essentially, if we look at very broadly how our system is absorbing and utilizing food, let's say, there are two key parts of that. One is actually three. One is the tolerance, which is that gut of like you tolerating it while you're bouncing because you are running. And the second one is the digestion. So it means that it's actually breaking it down because you are eating this and your body is actually digesting it. And the third one is the absorption, which means that actually we're using that fuel. So while we are doing this, we're stimulating all of those elements. So it's okay, let's tolerate it. Let's make sure your body actually can break it down while you're moving. And let's make sure that because it's available, you're actually using it.
We were talking about carbohydrates. So I guess there's examples of people running marathons with little to no carbs, right? But they're on like a ketogenic diet, something like that, where they're eating high fat content foods. Like I know someone who ran a quite impressive marathon off very little training and had zero carb load, had zero carbs during the race. And to me, that was phenomenal. I couldn't believe it. I thought she was crazy. But obviously at some point, like, is it like for someone like that, would it benefit them to introduce those carbohydrates, even if they are extremely efficient at, burning fats?
There is absolutely no question that someone can finish a marathon with exclusively fat, let's say, or very well fat adapted. But the question is, do you want to finish the marathon or do you want to finish the marathon as fast as possible? And that is the thing, right? If someone says, I seriously don't care, I don't want to touch anything with sugar and all I want is to finish it, fine, okay. Like that's why obviously understanding the objective is important. Now, if this person were to come and say, Gabby, I want to run my fastest marathon ever, the first thing we need to do, instead of me saying, okay, you need to eat all these energy gels during the race, we actually is like, let's make sure your body can actually tolerate this. So from the training, we need to start introducing them, because otherwise it's going to be a disaster. If this person has been pretty much training on minimal carbs, heading onto the race, even with just a little bit, like even if it's just, I would even say sipping some Gatorade or something like that, can be extremely problematic because the system is not adapted at all. So it's equivalent as someone not doing any runs and rocking up to the marathon and expecting they're going to finish it extremely well without any issues at all.
I guess before you mentioned, people being either time poor or kind of having to get up quite early. So I guess everyone, like lots of people, have different work. They might do shift work. They might, work very long days, and so people's training regimes could be shifted from either the very early morning to the middle of the day to the evening. Does that kind of schedule of your training impact how you're structuring your day, or like in terms of eating? Obviously, if you're training first thing in the morning, you're having something ideally like 2 hours before or an hour before or whatever to try and digest that. But if you're, say, coming back from work at 6 p.m., you go for your run at 7. Are we basically shifting our day across to match the training?
No, well, not essentially. With the nutrition, I always look at it as it has to integrate to what you're already doing. So we want to prioritize, obviously, because most of the people I work with are people working full time, are people who are not exclusively training, and that's all their life. There's so many other components to it. So there's work, there's training, there's sleep. So what we try to do with nutrition is, with what we have, it's let's integrate it. So for example, even in the morning, as much as the guidelines would say, oh, you need to eat 1 to 4 hours before your activity, I'm never going to ask someone to wake up an hour earlier just so they can eat their pre-training meal. I'm actually going to be, you know what? How long do you normally wake up beforehand? It's like, oh, I have half an hour. Fine. What I want you to do is now wake up, eat, and then do everything else. So at least you had a chance to let that sink in, let's say. Obviously, in that case, because we have 30 minutes, it's going to be something small. We're not going to start with a massive bowl of cereal and banana and orange juice and a massive thing. It's going to be smaller to make sure that we can tolerate it. So, for example, if we're thinking of someone, let's say, training in the evening, in that case, is big because we are mindful that the training session is going to be later in the day. It's understanding, for example, what time is your lunch times? Okay, well, my lunch time is usually at 12. And okay, so is the training session going to be at 6? Yes. All right. So between you having lunch at 12 and then training at 6, that's a very long time. So we would like to introduce a pre-training snack in that case. We want to make sure that that's packed with carbohydrates, easy to digest. It's definitely, let's say, an advantage if you're training in the evening because it's easier to squeeze in that food because we have obviously we've been awake and it's easier to introduce those meals, and we can be more targeted in terms of making it bigger or depending on what the, let's say, the components are, and also understanding the sense, like how the tolerance that someone can have. So, for example, in my case, I'm learning more that because I'm doing some training sessions at 5 p.m., even though I have my lunch at 12, I need to be very mindful of how that lunch is composed. Because if I have a high fiber lunch, it actually impacts my toilet breaks during my training session, and that's not something I want to be dealing with.
Big
So
time.
definitely need to look at my lunch in a different way, or being mindful that yes, I want to have carbohydrates, but I need to be careful with that fiber because I don't want it impacting my training session in that case.
So I guess the other side of it is, we consider lots of different things, but like how are we, I guess, making sure that we're getting the right percentage of all of these nutrients in our diet, whether it be carbs, fats, proteins, etc.?
That's an awesome question. And there's a framework I love using. So I like looking at food from their function. And essentially, if we look at what are the main functions that most foods have, we can group them into three main things. One is called energetics because they are essentially giving us energy. That is pretty much what carbohydrates and fats are doing. The other one is builders because those are the ones that are giving us the structure and function, which is anything that is giving us protein. And the third one is what I call the regulators. And the regulators are the things that are giving us fiber, vitamins, minerals, which often we can say most fruits and vegetables will fit into that category. When we understand it from that perspective, I find it's way easier to arrange your meal. So, for example, we are heading onto a training session. I'm sure you can assume it's like, okay, what should I have? Should I have lots of regulators because I'm heading to my run? Or should I focus on those energetics beforehand? 100% energetic. So it means that I'm going to have a bagel with some jam, and depending on my like how comfortable I am, I can pack more or just leave it there. If I'm recovering from that training session, okay, looks like I use energy because I was obviously exercising and I need to support my recovery. So I'm going to include those builders. So it's okay, let's make sure we have a sandwich, a smoothie, like those things that are going to pack that. And of course, if we look at the regulators, that is a really good opportunity to include them because now we finish the training session, we can increase the fiber, we can definitely support those nutrients. Now, in terms of the percentage, I don't like saying, oh, you need to eat this many grams or this many calories or anything like that because it's very difficult to actually track it. So when we look at that function, it's easier to adjust things as we are progressing. Training volume is increasing. Definitely makes sense to start increasing more of those energetics because we're going to need more of that. Where in that recovery period, we still want to keep that balance. So what we want is to start with, we want all three present in general throughout the day. And how do we ensure that the nutrients are present? the best thing someone can do is ensure there's variety. If every single day, every single week, we're eating literally the same thing over and over and over, as much as that is, let's say, very like ticking those 3 boxes, there are not many separate nutrients that we can target. So as much variety as we can include within reason. For example, in my case, I of pretty much every day I have overnight oats. So how do I introduce some variety? I at least change the fruit. So I have blueberries one day, strawberries the next day. So at least there's something there that I'm tweaking that allows me to introduce a change. Same when I have my meals. Sometimes I have the salad. Sometimes I have the veg. Like, so I'm just changing it a little bit to make sure that there's more nutrients there.
Yeah, nice. So those regulators, I guess, would technically be, I guess, what some people call micronutrients as well. Is that, am I understanding that correctly? So, I guess, But if you're having sufficient amount of those regulators and you're, have a very well balanced diet, is there any need for supplementation of those kinds of things?
That is where it is going to depend on the individual. So, for example, if I'm dealing with someone with a lot of dietary restrictions because there's intolerances, because there are specific preferences. So, for example, someone, a vegan athlete, or someone because they have IBS or anything like that, that's what we need to understand. What are the things that we can achieve through food, and what are the things that we definitely need to supplement because food is not going to be able to provide it. So, it's very individual. There is a, let's say, phrase that is very popular among dietitians, which is food first approach. And what it means is that we as much as we can, we want to encourage things coming from food. And it's not just because it's not because we are against supplements or anything like that. It's because we are aware that, for example, if you have, let's say, a broccoli. So broccoli, you're getting vitamin C, you're getting fiber, and because you are eating it now within the salad where you put the dressing, now it's actually absorbing those nutrients. Versus if I ask you, okay, have this fiber, have this vitamin C. So now you're having 30 tablets that you could have easily had with having a nice and balanced meal instead, that is giving you way more benefit than just having things in isolation.
I was sort of reflecting on my VO2 sessions, and I feel like I've not really nailed the pre-training session for that. So I tend to I either eat too much, or maybe I'm not eating the right foods for a session of that level of intensity. I guess my question is probably more like, how do I approach a session like that, knowing that I'll be hitting sort of those VO2 paces? Like, is there much guidance that you can offer in terms of the types of food or the how long before I eat beforehand?
Yeah, so look, I actually think it will be very helpful for the audience if you're happy sharing what you're
Yep.
currently doing, because from there I can give you feedback. And I find that a lot of people can say like, "Oh, I'm literally doing that," or "Actually, I was thinking of doing the same." So yeah, like, would you be happy with that?
No. So I was doing VO2 sessions after dinner, right? So like a 7:30 to 7:45. Now, I think how I've adjusted since the first VO2 session is less volume, but I still eat the dinner. So look, Asian household, it's probably rice with a meat and a veggie, but just in a smaller portion. But and I've tried to sort of tinker with that, right? But it's still very much a dinner meal for me. I feel like that's probably not been as successful. So part of me thinks, do I just skip the dinner and just have, like you said before, a pre-training snack as opposed to something that's perhaps dense like a rice with something?
What time do you normally have dinner, Simon?
I'd say 5-ish, somewhere around there.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
nice and early. Yeah,
Oh, so
yeah,
early.
I know.
yeah. That's like an afternoon snack for most of us.
I'll
No,
be I'll be still in the car park waiting for my girls finish dancing 5 o'clock time.
I mean, I used to have dinner at 6, right? And obviously that was probably dangerous territory. But thankfully my family do eat dinner pretty early. But I think, yeah, Tuesday nights, if I'm having to do my session on a Tuesday night, it's fraught with danger.
look. So in that case, first, timing wise, it's perfect. As eating at 5 and then you have your training session at 7:30. It's really good. So timing is good. What we need to change is the composition more than the size, I would say. So if we think of a VO2 session, what that's obviously is really high intensity. And when we're dealing with a high intensity training session, the last thing you need is to still be digesting your dinner. And for example, the reason I would suggest to someone who, let's say, is going to be at their desk all afternoon to have a dinner to have a lunch like your dinner, where there's vegetables, there's protein, we have the carbs, is because what that does is that it also slows down the digestion, the absorption, and it means that it's energy that is sustainable. In your case, because we want that energy to be nice and quick, and we want that essentially process to not be slow, what I will be suggesting is reducing the protein and veggies that you're having there. However, what I would suggest is you have a second dinner once you finish your training session, and that's where all those things that you took off from the plate, you're going to add them, because in that case, that is going to be very helpful. So what that means is that potentially we can, let's say, that's one option. And I think, for example, if we think of what I was talking about earlier, where we're looking at also the lifestyle, we don't want you to now say to their family that now you're not having dinner with them because you are going to be training later. It's like, actually sit down, have the dinner, but let's split it in two, essentially, where I would suggest looking at, okay, at least if we look at the composition of that meal, we want that to be predominantly carbohydrate, a little bit of protein, perhaps a little bit of veggies, because 2.5 hours beforehand is still enough for you to incorporate a little bit of that. But then from there, we want a similar looking plate at the end of the training session, but now we have more even distribution where there's a bit more protein, those veggies, and that carbohydrate. We want you to sleep well as well, so we also don't want to make it too big, because if it's too large meal, like you're already coming all stimulated from the training session, and then you have a bigger meal, it could be challenging. So we still want to keep a nice balance without overloading you, because that could be very uncomfortable. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, the alternative for me would be doing a session at midday, right? So it's about how do I time, I guess, my pre-training session meal, knowing that my lunch isn't going to happen till after the session as well. So I think for me, when I've had to do a session at, let's just say 12:30, 1 o'clock during my lunch break, I always get caught up in the, like, what do I eat at what time? And I usually go like probably 10 o'clock. It's probably like a banana bread or something from the cafe. Is that sort of something that sort of works because it's just purely carbs?
Totally. So, for example, a few things to look at there. One would be that you need to you want to have a really decent breakfast. Because if you are someone who, let's say, has toast and coffee, even if you have banana bread or whatever, it's not going to be enough before that run to support that. So if we have a very decent breakfast, and I'm talking about, once again, we got those, for example, I'm thinking Greek yogurt with oats, fruit, and some honey or something like that. That's nice and balanced. Then it means that you can introduce a very good carbohydrate mid-morning snack that is going to be pretty much, I would suggest, the closer you are eating to your training session, the simpler you want that carbohydrate to be. And what I mean simpler is pretty much the more sugary you want it. So let's say you're eating 1 hour before running. What I want is white toast with maple syrup and a banana, for example, or a bagel with jam and fruit, something like that, depending on your tolerance. If it feels like too much, we can obviously have less. If you're going to be eating 2 hours before, that's when you can have, let's say, a little bit of peanut butter or something that is going to help in that slower absorption a little bit, just so that way you're not all hyper before you even start your session. And then it's very helpful that you have your lunch immediately after, because that lunch is going to be amazing to support that recovery. So that's where we can play with, I always see nutrition as something that we can be very flexible with if we know what we're doing, instead of you having to flip your schedule all around just because you need to eat your pre-training snack, or you want to make sure that there's enough time between eating and running. Like, we can definitely work the way around and make it really, really efficient and helpful.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks.
What time does Chief eat dinner, Smithy?
She's outside meowing a lot. I haven't fed her tonight. That'll be the first thing I do after this. But yeah, Chief normally eats Normally when I get home from training, she starts flopping around on the floor. Chief is my cat to everyone who obviously didn't hear the chat we're having before we started. Normally she gets fed the first thing when I get home from training, because she loses a plot if she's hungry.
Yeah, no doubt. So, Smithy, is there anything there that kind of rings true for you, mate?
A lot of it. Like a lot of people who know me will joke that I live off McDonald's. And there is some mild truth to it. I do love a bacon egg McMuffin. Occasionally I will go to the gym, and then me and Matt Ramsden will go and have coffee and a bacon egg McMuffin at Macca's. But I found sort of Perth Marathon last year that my gut was quite sensitive, and I went away and I spoke to a nutritionist, and a lot of what Gabby's just said, especially with my pre-training meals, I really had to cut out all the fiber, and I keep it super basic. It's like normally just toast with Nutella, some peanut butter, and I'll have that sort of 3 hours out, and then if I start getting peckish, just a very ripe banana. Anywhere from an hour to 30 minutes out. And then from there on, I've had very little issues over the last 12 months with my stomach, touch wood. But I used to have a lot of fiber. I'd have like Weet-Bix for lunch and that sort of stuff. So had to clean that up.
Are there any guilty pleasures you have, mate, that you would care not to admit, other than the bacon and egg McMuffins?
I love a weekly treat that I give myself 7 or 8 times a week. I'm guilty of sitting down on a Friday night and eating a liter of ice cream in one hit. What else do I do? That's probably the worst one. I love ice cream. I can easily sit down like with the tub and a spoon, and I'll have my TV show on, whatever it is, and I can just power through half a tub of ice cream. But no, not really. Like I try and keep things super like simple. I just love ice cream, guys.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Nita,
sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask, because I'm sure you guys are going to ask him later, but I actually think it's relevant for what you're saying. What is your average weekly training load? If we look at, I don't know, hours or kilometers, whatever is easier.
Yeah. I've recently given up cycling, so I've suddenly found an extra 10 hours of my week. I was easily, when I was doing cycling and running, it would probably be close to 10 and 10 of each, or maybe eight running and 10 cycling. Now that cycling's gone, I'd say I'm in like a transition phase where I'm sort of like holding a 130K a week and just sort of letting the body adapt and react to the training loads that we're going through. Obviously that will go up as we get closer to Perth Marathon, but given that I've never really done double running days before, I'd say at the moment I'm probably doing like 10 to 11 hours of running, probably 2 hours of gym, and like that's it. Which to a lot of people might seem like a lot, but I've literally cut my training load in half, and found a bit of extra time to, I don't know, go to dinner in the evenings and sleep in like an extra hour or so. So, we'll say 130 a week, mileage wise, and which is about 10 to 11 hours, I guess.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, just because I feel like for someone listening, it's like, oh, that's a lot of ice cream. But I actually think like it's very justifiable if we think of how it's important to get that energy in. And sometimes that is a way. Is something that is energy dense, is something that is enjoyable. And that's awesome.
100%. Like I jokingly say calories in, calories out when I go to Macca's, because like we're just putting calories straight back in after a gym session. But I'm sure there's some calcium in ice cream, and I haven't had a stress fracture, again, touch wood, in a very long time. And I'm down to the amount of ice cream that I eat.
Love it.
Fantastic. How about you, Nita? So like I was going to ask you this a little bit later, but I have noticed in your training you do hit the gym quite a lot. You're out at Fit Stop there in, I think, Ellenbrook, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I love my gym.
Yeah. So, I guess is there an aspect of your diet that you have kind of thought about in the past with respect to balancing the gym and the cardio that you do training for your races?
I don't think not much changed other than like just eat carbs. But yes, in terms to before running or like doing any race, I never had a breakfast because I'm just way too scared. I'm gonna poo my pants during the run, or it's just like go in my head. But since last year, when I fully committed to my first training program of my first marathon, that's when I'm like taking anything serious, like eating breakfast. Like yeah, before the race, I wake up like sleeping just in the kitchen eating so I can eat. But in terms of that, in the morning I will have just toast, and I'm a pistachio lover. So toast and pistachio. If I'm running a pistachio, I will move to Nutella. And then if I'm running on Nutella, it will be peanut butter plus slice of banana on top. But other than that, I think it was just I can eat rice pretty much lunch and dinner, like those rice and stir fry, rice and honey chicken, anything with rice. So it's like rice is the main thing. And in terms to after come back, kind of like gym, not hungry, but like I don't know, like nothing changed. Because I think maybe is that because just eat rice all the time? I don't know. My Asian still can't change even after living here in Perth for quite some times. So yeah.
Are you supplementing? Like, are you someone who takes protein shakes or anything like that, or are you?
I used to, but now like it's kind of like a milkshake. Like I used to having it once a day, but now I get rid of that because it feels like um after I eat it, I still kind of eat exactly the same amount if I don't take my protein shake. So I don't know if it's helped. So last year I do take, like I said, those 16 weeks I take protein shake pretty much once or twice a day. But then beginning of the year I get rid of that and then just back to my normal what I normal eat. And then yeah, touch wood, I haven't had any problem with when I'm running and stuff, other than don't ever stop in the toilet in the middle of racing ever. So yeah, other than that, I think nothing really much changed. Just
Well, it
rice is
sounds
life.
it sounds like you were saying, Gabby, like food first, right? Like it sounds like
Yeah.
Nita's targeting the food as a priority rather than looking to something else to
That's
supplement.
very good, actually.
No, great. Okay, well, I guess I got a couple more questions here before we let you go, Gabby. But I just, in terms of like a lot of people talk, I guess I'm someone who doesn't like to count calories or try and look at numbers that I'm like targeting, to try and like Smithy was saying, like calories in, calories out, right? Like I don't like to count numbers. I recently, I think I was talking to Simon on one of our episodes recently where I counted how many carbs I'd had before as my carb load for Gold Coast, and it was extraordinarily above the amount that you had, said was within the normal range. So
Like 1.5 kilograms of carbs or something.
yeah, it was
Holy
it was a
moly.
disgusting amount of carbs, but I guess is there something we talk about running to feel a lot? Is there something like eating to feel, like understanding that you yes, I feel like I've had enough food, and how can I be sure of that without finding out down the track that I've got stress fractures or I've got red S or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is, I love that question because it is a complicated answer. And I'll try to make it as simple as possible. One thing that we need to be aware of is that exercise often suppresses appetite. It's not unusual for someone to say, I had a training session and it was so hard and I seriously didn't feel like eating afterwards. And the thing is that just because you didn't feel like eating doesn't mean that you shouldn't be eating. If anything, we need to be very deliberate about that recovery as well. So that's where I see, for example, when someone could unintentionally end up in that energy deficiency where they were like at any point they were thinking of losing weight or restricting their energy or anything like that. But because they were not necessarily paying attention to the nutrition, they were just eating by like, well, I'm not hungry, I'm not eating. And whenever I'm hungry, I eat. It was not sufficient. So when I look at the nutrition around training, that for me, I would say probably, let's say, 2 hours to like essentially 2 hours before the whole duration of the training session and 2 hours after. That's where I would broadly, I would look at like the training nutrition in general. That's where I suggest being more deliberate and probably prescriptive, let's say, in terms of let's make sure that beforehand you're fueling, that you're eating during, if required, if it's something that is longer than 1 hour, we want to start including some energy intake there, and then afterwards that recovery. That is something that we want to there be more prescriptive. But then when we look outside of that, that's where it's helpful to be more flexible. And I will try and simplify this as much as I can, but I think it's important to be aware of, because I actually was thinking of that today, and I think about it often anyway. But anyway, when we look at nutrition advice, most people focus on, especially in the fitness space or the weight loss space, everybody's talking about like, oh, look at this bowl of salad. It actually only has 200 calories and it looks amazing. And or here is this Mike McFlurry like stuff. And like what they are doing there is that they are looking at maximizing volume. So it means that because you have a bigger meal, it's easier to feel satisfied with less energy. For an athlete, that doesn't help. Because what we're doing there is essentially restricting energy unintentionally. So there are two paths that are important to be aware of. One is that when we look at eating, there are two main mechanisms at which our body is telling us if we had enough. One is our stomach. So when our stomach, let's say, distends, sends signals to say that's enough. However, there's another mechanism, because the body is extremely clever and I love it, that is your blood glucose levels. So, for example, if I eat a massive bowl of salad on a day that I was training really hard and I'm not eating carbohydrates, my blood glucose is going to go lower and lower. And that's going to send another signal to my brain saying, we need energy. And if I do that, I'm sure I'm going to be craving sugar the whole time. And that's when I want the chocolate, and that's when I want the sweets, and I can't resist the cupcake. And that's because the body is telling me like, we need to put this up. So what that means is that if we are aware of this, is okay, it means that we need to eat sufficient volume, because the stomach is one component, but we want to have that sufficient energy that maintains those glucose levels. It's easier to stay in that sustainable, let's say, pattern. So what that means is paying attention to what your hunger levels are throughout the day, and what are your, let's say, many people consider, like, think of it as food noise, but essentially how frequently you are thinking about food. So, for example, when I work with my clients, I ask them to complete, I call it a nutrition audit. And in that case, the audit, what it's doing is essentially registering what you're eating throughout the day, but we're not tracking calories. What we're tracking is actually those sensations. Is what did you have? How hungry were you beforehand? What was your hunger afterwards? Overall comments on how the day went. What was your training like? How did the training feel like? And with that, we can start identifying things. That means that either the volume or the distribution of those meals needs to change. So I know it's a complicated thing to look at, but once you get it, it's very simple to follow and to start listening to your body and realize when there's something that like missing still there.
Something I probably need to take into consideration, definitely.
So, Gabby, I can still eat rice all the time, yeah?
Yeah.
Rice is okay?
Nita, like, I love it. And like, look, something that is very important also to mention here is, and that's part of that lifestyle that I talk about. Like, if this is part of your cultural identity, me coming and saying like, oh, you should eat pasta instead. It's like, hang on, like, I actually love rice. The only thing there is just like, because I know that you're mentioning there's a lot of rice, but I'm assuming that you're also obviously eating vegetables and there's some protein there. So like, that's amazing. And definitely something that it's very adequate for someone training for a marathon. So I absolutely love that.
There's a tiny little broccoli in there, but yeah.
So green looking at. Yeah, no, look, that's definitely like it sounds great. I definitely, if you want to, we can obviously look at it in more detail. But to me, it sounds like what we want is if we want a meal that is enjoyable, we want something that is energetic, and we want something that essentially is keeping your body happy. And it sounds like you're nailing in there.
Hasn't got any accident yet. So so far so good.
Look, that is a very, and that's something I actually wanted to address briefly because that is a really valid concern for most people when they think about fueling before the run. And even myself have experienced that anxiety of not knowing if the toilet is going to be available or something like that. And it's absolutely awful. So I do appreciate that that's something that we don't want to experience, but definitely looking at what we're eating and how we're like that, the composition of that meal, and making sure that it's easy to absorb, we can 100% avoid that.
No, well, Gabby, yeah, thank you so much for jumping in and giving these guys some advice, giving Simon and I advice. Simon's probably taking notes down there, just putting a few things together. For the sake of the listeners, Gabby, where can they find you?
Yeah, so my most active social media is Instagram. So you can find me as with my business name at Intense Eat Fit. I'm sure you guys put it in the notes because I know it's hard to mention. And there you can pretty much get into my website, intenseeatfit.com. And I have a bunch of resources there. And yeah, always happy to connect with people. I'm very always like on my messages and everything, so personally replying to anyone getting in touch. So yeah, love hearing when someone says, hey, I listened to you on the podcast, and yeah, that's very exciting always.
Fantastic. No, thanks so much, Gabby. Yeah, we'll see you next time we get you on the podcast, no doubt. I'm going to swing straight into some quick fire questions for you guys because I know we are running long and I want to make sure that Chief gets fed. So
There'll be chaos to pay with.
yeah. Nita, I'm going to start with you.
Yes.
Like we're obviously a very long way out from Perth Running Festival, but you are running the half marathon this year, I believe.
Yes, I am.
Yep.
Yeah.
And last year you ran Perth Running Festival as your first marathon. Is that correct?
Yep. And you saw me at the Kwinana as well. Most of the time.
Yeah, that's why we know it as the Kwinana Freeway training series. But yeah, so I guess when you completed that, your first marathon, it was very tough. You said I think in most of your social media posts at the time, there were a lot of tears.
A lot.
How was the experience of that first marathon? What have you taken from it, and what have you've learned from in the past 12 months?
Taking my gel in a correct time, proper times, definitely it's gonna help. And like I say, I was so happy after kilometer 33, and I thought like, because when the first time I sign up, I say to my coach, all I want is finish crossing the finish line. And then but then I say, oh, maybe I can do 5 hours. And then I've never done training before, and I take it seriously, and then towards the training, and I'm like, oh, maybe I can do 4 hours 30. And then you were there 4 hours 45. And I was like, I'm happy as long as you and Simon never ever pass me until yeah, kilometer 33, because like I'm just worried because this is obviously my longest one. And then I passed the toilet so many times, and I'm worried if like there's 7 kilometers to go. I wonder if there's any toilet left. And then I don't need to, but I'm just worried if there's no more toilet. So then I went to the toilet, and that's tough up everything. Just the cram, get out of the toilet, and then 4 hours 30 is gone. And then I saw you pass me, and then your balloons keep going far away, and that's when the tears keep crying. But then yeah, like I say, lesson to learn. It was my first one, but hey, I didn't DNF. I finished 4 hours 50.
Absolutely. You've got to be massively proud of that. I think Simon and I had a new appreciation for anyone completing a marathon, running at that kind of period of time, because my hips were completely fucked after that run.
It was well, definitely respectable, a decent. I've never understand when people say you're gonna watch out for the wall, and I was like, what wall? And then that wall is just suddenly out of nowhere hit you, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And then did my Bibra, which is wasn't planned. Um, that was a very surprise, and I was happy. But man, that loop, I don't think I want to see Bibra like for quite some time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took 40 minutes of my last year one, which is pretty happy. And then now I'm got to say start my training next week for my Singapore marathon.
Yeah.
Yay! I
Yeah.
remember Simon did ask me. I don't know if you remember, Simon, when you asked me when I finished my first marathon, and you say like, "Oh, are you gonna sign up again?" And I said like, "Never." And then
And now you're doing your third.
I, it was I don't know, these people that running marathon, I think got something in their head. They just and
One
I'm
of us now.
looking at these four people here.
One of us. One of us.
Yeah, exactly. We're all slightly bent, I think. So yeah, I guess you mentioned your coach. Who is your coach, and like what does your training look like at the moment? And obviously, Singapore Marathon's coming down the track.
Yeah.
Then what is the goal for uh, Perth Running Festival half?
Well, I haven't thought about it. So my coach, I got trained by Claire Franklin. Um, she's a very tough coach. But I love her to bit. She helped me. I'm dying to get myself 2 hours for my half, and then she helped me at the Joondalup. She personally paced me, and then oh man, those 2 hours with her, I learned so much about the hills, about the downhills, everything. Um, and I got myself 2 hours, which is thanks to her. Haven't got any plan for a half yet, but if you can get just 2 seconds from the previous one, we'll be happy.
Yeah,
We'll be happy.
nice.
In terms to Singapore, to be honest, this is definitely, I will say, suicide, because the the humid. Well, I wasn't gonna plan to do Singapore, but the one that I want to do this year, because now that I want to do at least once a year marathon. This year, I originally want to do the Bali one, the one that called Maybank Marathon. But when I decided to do that as my second marathon, I already missed the general ballot, which is, I think it's happening in a couple of weeks now in Bali. And then suddenly, when you talk something and then your social media suddenly listen to you, and then boom, Singapore Standard Charter just pop up, and it's in December, and I'm like, you know what? Why not? We'll give that as a stepping stone. Try with the humidity, but I don't have any goal. As long as I'm not DNF, I'll be happy. But I don't think I can beat my Bibra with the humid. So then if I survive Singapore, and I'm sure, hopefully I'll be survive for Bali next year. I
Yeah,
hope.
nice.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
Are you taking the family on that trip, or are you going
Singapore?
solo?
No. You kidding me? No.
Stuff the family.
This is actually going to be my first solo trip in, oh my God, how many kids I have now? Three. In 11, I don't know, in so many years. So I'm going to enjoy this pen and a holiday at the same time.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
nice, beautiful. That'll be amazing.
And I'm sure I'm going to see some quite familiar faces over there too. I hope.
Yeah, I think Carlos is going over there, isn't he?
Yeah, we were already talking about post racing meals, and I said we can go after, you can wait for me another 2-3 hours after you finish.
Very
So
good.
yeah, I heard he's going to, so it will be nice to see him there.
Nice. Um, So yeah, I think we mentioned just with Gabby before. I guess one more question for you, Nita. Obviously the gym plays a big part in your training week. So like, what does the structure of your week look like at the moment? Are you doing 4 sessions in the gym? Are you doing 4 runs? Like, how does
Yeah,
that work?
so run is 4 days, obviously 3 days during the week with some interval, easy, and then long run on the weekend. And I try to, so my gym now is based on my run, but I always try to get 3 days a week for my gym because at Fitstop we call this, if you hit the gym 3 days a week, you got streak.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, hopefully I pronounced it correct? So and then you got like level up, which is
Mm-hmm.
what am I now? I think I'm living legend. I am. No, it is because I've got 60 something 4 weeks straight. So
Wow,
so yeah, in terms of
nice.
that, I try to squish in 3 days a week of the gym, and then I try to hit, because their sections are like Monday, Thursday is a bit of half cardio, half strength. Tuesday, Friday strength, and then Wednesday cardio. So I try to take those Tuesday, Friday the strength. That's where all like the deadlift and everything. I try to not miss that one. And then between the cardio and the half cardio, half strength, it depend what the workout looks like, and we just choose the day. But definitely the gym or the strength training at the fit stop really helped my run, I think,
Mm.
because I could just run, but then just whatever. But doing the gym section kind of lightening, I don't know, what do you say, that like lightening my run a little bit, maybe because of, I don't know,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who might be new to running
Yeah,
underestimate the value of gym work because you end up so much stronger from doing it, right?
yeah.
So then the running suddenly feels very easy because you're not lifting 100 kilos or whatever you might be lifting on the deadlift.
It's true, but it's funny because I can lift so heavy when I'm not running so much, but once I'm focusing on running, and then my deadlift sucks. Can't really have both. But
Mm.
yeah, always try to hit the gym 3 days a week. Just try to work it out between the run, but I can always just do my run first thing in the morning because mom's working, can't squish in any more time. Plus kids dancing live.
Mm.
That's about it. So yeah.
Yeah, nice, very good. So yeah, balancing it all, balancing the gym,
It's not
balancing the
nice,
family,
Chris.
balancing
It's
running.
tiring. So,
No,
but yeah, very grateful. I can still be able to
mm,
do a bit of both, and then yeah,
yeah, for sure.
and here I am at the same room as you all. Well, not at the same room, but same screen.
Virtually.
Same screen.
Yeah.
Living inside our computers.
Yes.
All right. No, thanks, Nita. Now, Smithy, you're probably one of the most prolific athletes we have at the moment. Like multiple wins in HBF, Bustleton, podiums across multiple distances, at state
That's nice of you.
championships and the like.
Keep
Now,
going.
I'm going to stop there because his head's going to grow a bit bigger. Um,
His head's getting real big over here.
What is it? I mean, you obviously love the competitive side of running. What is it about doing that you like? You love putting it all on the line.
I love winning and I hate losing. And that's it. Like people always ask me, why do you enjoy running so much? And I'm like, I don't. like, like me and Mark Mitchell just did a 7K jog around Munger, and I think we complained for 35 out of the 35 minutes. But like deep down, I do love it. But I'd rather be playing golf or watching the F1 or anything else. But like yeah, people who know me know that like, I'm addicted to winning, and once I get like my teeth into something, I will practice that until I can win it. And unfortunately for myself, ended up being like out of all the other sports, I did best at running. So yeah, I really do get the itch to win and know that I'm better than people around me. Like that sounds super arrogant, but I hate losing and I just enjoy winning. So Hopefully, still some wins to come.
No doubt. You've obviously got the likes of Luke and Dean, people like that who are kind of up at that level with you to challenge you. So having someone to actually challenge you is handy, because winning easily is not fun. But
yeah, correct, 100%. And like I think with Dean in particular, we've shared I've known Dean now for 10 years. We first met at Averley Park Run. It would have been 2014 or 2015, and straight away, like we'd be racing each other for wins at Park Run. And then we sort of went our separate ways for a little bit, and then sort of butted heads again when I think like I obviously grew into my body a little bit. I finally hit puberty, and Dean finally started running some proper Ks. And if you go back over the years, me and Dean are probably, I think I probably just got the upper hand on him, but like would be pretty close to 50-50 on how many times we've beaten each other. But like I always love it when Dean rocks up to a race, because I think we've known each other long enough and raced each other enough that we're happy to sort of like help each other out. We'll take turns in the wind. We won't talk a lot during the race. Like there's still that competitive sort of fuck you attitude, but like we know that we'll sort of work well together, and we've run heaps of PBs together because we do help each other out.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's super important to have someone like that in your life, I guess, like to be able to give you.
Yeah, I should propose to him. Like, that's close anyway.
It's a shame he's married and taken.
What does that mean? No. We can work something out.
Wanted to chat to you about Perth Running Festival last year. So yeah, I guess you probably put a fair bit of weight on your own shoulders for that race, being your hometown race, and probably a lot of people expected things from you, but obviously DNFing around 30 Ks. I think you said in your questionnaire it's probably your worst race experience. Like you then, but from like a couple of months later, you went on to run 2:22 at Monterey, and came fourth, I think, against like some outrageous athletes competing over there in terrible conditions. So, what did you learn from that Perth Running Festival last year that you took into Monterey?
Honestly, like I could say everything. So I've done Monterey twice. I debuted there in 2023, which was sort of like 2023 for me was like a year that everything I touched sort of turned to gold in like all aspects of my life. And I ran 2:23 there, that like hired the first year, but it was like perfect conditions, and I thought I had a really good run. Like I had some stomach troubles towards the end, but like all in all, I had a really good run. I was really happy with that 2:23. And then the decision to do Perth last year was very last minute in terms of like marathon training. I think we only decided 6 weeks out. I had nothing else to do, and I was like, yeah, let's just give it a whirl. So I had a very limited preparation. It was very good preparation. But yeah, just everything. It was more everything on the day went wrong for me. Like I screwed up my breakfast. I had Weet-Bix, so too much fiber. I actually felt pretty good, like warming up, and like the conditions. Like people who did it know that it was really humid that day. And went to the bathroom before the race, no problems. But like by 5K in, I knew that I was toast. Like I had to go to the bathroom again. I was just sweating so much, and I couldn't keep my gels. Sort of like, obviously, once you start pooing yourself, everything's going through the system. So I knew like 5K in, before I came back across Garrett Bridge past Optus the first time, I knew that I was DNFing deep down. But obviously, I'm a competitor, and I was like, look, it might go away. I was running a good pace for the first 20K. I think I was still running like 3:17s or 3:18s. And then, got on Kwinana Freeway, and that's when things started getting real bad. I reckon around the 23K mark, like at that point, I was just clenching my anal sphincter, like, and like, I ran past my dad, who was taking photos probably 1,500 meters past Narrows going south, and he was like, "Yeah, you're looking really good," and I was like, "I'm fucked." So I got to the turnaround and turned around, and I was still sitting in fourth at that point. The three African boys had buggered off up the road. And yeah, I at that point I started running like 4-minute kilometers. And I saw a toilet probably 20 near the golf course, not South Royal Perth golf course, and I stopped there, went to the toilet, and like still in my head I was like, look, I can get this back. Like I'll just run a really strong last 10Ks and she'll be right. And I got out of the toilet and I've never felt worse. I think Jerry Hill ran past me and I was like, look, I'll just work my way back into a rhythm and sit on him and then work my way up. And I think I was running 5-minute pace. And then, had another gel. It just went straight through me again. So I saw my dad just before Narrows and I was just like, I'm done. There's no situation where my body could have got me to the finish line on that day. Like people say, oh, could you have just jogged it in? And like the answer was no, I was absolutely toast. So yeah, I think it was about 30K I got to. And then, went away, saw a nutritionist, obviously had some pretty good chats with my coach Rambo about sort of what went right and wrong. And yeah, like the Perth Marathon was a weird timing for me as well, because we're pretty sure that I had long COVID throughout the middle of last year. Like if you go and look at my results, I just went on this terrible run where everything I did sucked. And like the conclusion me and my doctor came to was like I'd had long COVID or something similar, because we couldn't really figure out what it was. And then, so I booked Monterey in February, like pretty much after Monterey the year before. I was like, I'm coming back. I reckon I can win this race. So I was already committed to that. And we went away, changed a few things. And I went over to Auckland for the running festival there, just the half. And it was like really the first time since probably the Bustleton Running Festival in 2024 where I felt myself. I got to like the 18, 19K mark of a race and I was like, I can still attack this race. I'm not fried. So I think that gave me a little bit of a confidence boost from Monterey. And then we took all the learnings from Perth into Monterey, and that's honestly that the 2024 marathon in Monterey was like best 3 runs of my life. Like the conditions were horrible. And it sort of made it worse over there because I don't know if you guys and girls or anyone listening, I'm assuming, have been to the US or Mexico. A lot of the roads are made out of like concrete. So when they get wet, they are so slippery. So there were like huge 5-6 kilometer sections where it's pissing with rain. You're slipping and sliding everywhere, and it just wasn't a fun experience. Like it was a fun experience, but like you know that the time is bleeding away for no fault of your own, and like yes, I didn't hit a wall in Monterey. I dropped a gel early, so I got to the 30K mark, and I went to take my third gel, and it was gone, and I was like, oh fuck. So I actually said a lot worse things, but so from there, like the last 7K, I was like really slowing down through every aid station to make sure I got a sip of Coke, a sip of Powerade, a sip of water, because they didn't have any gels left. It was like a lap, sort of a 1.5 lap course. So like the end was the start. So all the gels were gone. So there, I left a bit of time on the board consciously from slowing down. But it's similar sort of thing. I got to the last 2K of that race, so I could see a couple of the Kenyan boys just ahead of me who were like 2:05 guys. And they're obviously not having a brilliant day, but I was like, I can chase these guys down. And I was going full gas until probably the last 200 meters where I realized I wasn't going to catch them. And then I was like, at this point, I don't want to sprint and cramp and then lose another huge bunch of time. I'll just sort of cruise it in. So like, for me, 2:22 on paper isn't a great time. I think that run on that day, probably like easier to say it, but I think it was more of a 2:17 or a 2:18 run. So yeah, it's sort of like where my goal setting for Perth's come in is like, if I don't run a 2:18, given hopefully some good conditions, I'll probably be a little bit disappointed, but we'll see. That's the great part about this sport. You never know. Anything can happen on race day.
Yeah, exactly. No, thanks for being really open, mate. That's actually like way more insightful than I was expecting you to.
You want to hear about the poo after the 2023 marathon?
That's the reason why we do this podcast, right? The running bit.
Yeah, it's just exchanging poo stories. No, I mean, yeah, obviously, yeah, you're very capable of pulling together something pretty special. Yeah, so obviously 217, 218, that'll be the goal. Hopefully, like I hope, because I think for the last 3 or 4 years the weather in October has been
So
not great.
hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we get a day that's 10 degrees, I think it'd be a massive win, and low humidity. You mentioned before when we were talking to Gabby, obviously not doing the duathlons anymore, so cycling has kind of dropped away. Are you still cross training, like as doing cycling, or have you dropped it altogether?
So yeah, I'm supposed to be, but I don't know if you guys have been outside the last couple of weeks. It's been raining a lot. So yeah, I still aim to do 1 or 2 coffee rides a week. I call them coffee rides because I go with my mates. Shout out to AJ and Cheese. And like the goal is to just get to Steam Lab, have a coffee, get home without getting poleaxed by an e-scooter. Don't get me started on e-scooters, boys. But yeah, the weather's been pretty poo. So there's not been a lot of riding. But this Saturday's looking good. So I'm pretty excited to. Well, I wouldn't say excited. There's a reason I quit, but
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to a coffee at Steam Lab on my bike.
yeah, for sure. If it's a social thing and you're doing it with your mates, what reason have you got not to do it other than rain? Of course.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not worth going out in the rain when I could be in bed all warm and tucked up.
Yeah. Why is it that cyclists don't like the rain? Is it because they're protective of their bikes?
I don't like the rain because I don't like getting wet. That's why I wasn't a triathlete. I don't like getting wet. Yeah, most cyclists, they don't want to get their shiny $12,000 bikes wet. So
that's probably fair. So yeah, Rambo's your coach. You said you were doing roughly 130 Ks a week with a few doubles in there. What will your training kind of evolve to as we get closer to the marathon?
That's a great question because he sort of like hinted at the change coming soon, but didn't tell me what it was. So I'm going to be hitting triple threshold. I don't know. Triple threshold, 5-hour long runs, 4 buckets of ice cream a week. I really don't know. Obviously the mileage will bump up to probably like 160, then creep up to 170.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it'll go too far above that because I think I will keep the cycling in there with the cross training. But yeah, like there's at the moment I'm only running 6 days a week for 130. So like easily putting in an extra day will get me to closer to 150, and then my long runs haven't been that long yet. So they'll obviously start to bump up a fair bump, and like before you know it, I'll be at 160. So I don't know how the week's going to be structured in terms of sessions and whatnot, but I'll guess I'll let you guys know when I know.
Yeah, I did notice on your long runs, like you guys head out to the trails quite a bit, run as a group out there. So obviously that's a strength building exercise to try and keep you guys strong in the legs.
100%, but like I just love the trails. Like I'm useless at them. We got Vlad Excel in the group, and that guy can run downhills like no one else I know. I can keep with him on the uphill stuff, but like everyone always asks me, "Oh, you're going to do some ultra stuff and like some trail stuff?" No, fuck no. I'd be useless at it. I'd get to the top of the hill maybe like with the front guys, and then I'd get to the bottom of the hill 20 minutes after them with 2 broken ankles and depression. But like I love doing it. Like I love going out to the hill, especially when the weather's bad, like running through puddles and like doing it with your mates as well. It's my favorite run of the week. But I finally think I've converted a whole bunch of my double guys that are doing the Sydney Marathon. There's been a lot of pushback for years about going to the hills for long run, and now we've got a nice little crew each week going out. So I think I finally instilled some knowledge that long runs are fun in the hills, and you don't have to run 8 laps around Lake Munga every Saturday if you don't want to.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, I have noticed that actually. I think we called out Renee as a weapon of warp this week on the podcast.
Yes, you did, and she's stoked about that, by the way. So thank you very much.
That's very good. Nita, how about you? Like, what do your long runs look like? I know I've seen you running through Whiteman Park quite a lot, which must be.
You guys need to try that park, seriously. That's when you can see hundreds of kangaroos.
Oh, nice. I'm terrified of magpies, and all I remember from being a kid, is when I go to Whiteman Park, I get swooped.
Well, so far,
cool
I don't
memory.
think I ever seen magpie. You've seen hundreds of kangaroos, not a magpies. And it's
Oh.
only like 11K in one loop. You can just repeat it easily twice or 3 times. Yeah, but I don't think I've seen any of you on your Strava, any of Whiteman Park. So you might go check it out one time and then get out of the park and then keep going to Swan Valley. Easy half marathon there.
I think
Not
I
me
did it
joining
once.
you.
Yeah,
You did?
2020 COVID. Yeah, I think I snuck in there once, and I liked it, but just never been back.
It is very good. Like nice little loop. And then yeah, my long run not as your weekly miles is like my lucky if my Strava congratulation me that I'm finally hit 100 kilometers in this month. Like yours is. Are you sure I'm in the right group chat right now?
No, I mean, you're the celebrity of this training series. It's not bad at all.
Smithy's just making up numbers.
If it's not a Strava, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
The one that you did the 5 seconds one today?
Sorry?
The one that you did the 5 seconds one today? Was that 5 seconds today or yesterday? The one that you
29.
crossed the bridge for 29 minutes.
Oh no.
For 0.005.
Yeah, I stopped and started my watch like 3 times in the wrong place, and I just gave up. So yeah, I think I did a 28-second run for Run Club.
That was a funny one.
Yeah, so I wasn't actually at Run Club this morning, guys. It didn't happen. It's not there.
No, very good. No, guys, really appreciate you joining us on a Wednesday night, spending so much time with us. We've been talking for nearly 85 minutes now, so I'm going to let you guys get to bed. Loved
I'm going to
chatting.
get my ice cream first. I haven't got my ice cream yet.
I've got ice cream waiting for me.
Yeah, very good.
Done.
Very good. That sounds like an idea. Now, look, we're looking forward to seeing how things progress over the next few weeks. We'll obviously be in touch with you guys to keep track and get you on again soon. I think Vlad has got some goodies, coming for both of you in terms of singlets and nutrition. So that'll be awesome to get those and get them in, kind of incorporated into your training ahead of the race. We also got to get you, Nita, out to the running centre to try on a pair of shoes and
CLOs.
Yeah, maybe Smithy can have a few words in your ear about what shoes you might be able to try. But the guys, Raf and Sam will take care of you out there. So that'll be awesome.
Can't wait.
Yep, definitely. Next episode, I think in a month's time, Simon, we've got Kat Watt and Denzel Gould on to talk through their running. So it'll be interesting to meet Denzel. I don't really know much about him other than that he used to play football and he won a marathon relay with his dad last weekend. So
Yay, first podium.
Yeah, big time.
Yay.
So that's good news. So yeah, like for the listeners, just remember, like we've got code WARP there to use for any Bix and Reach products. We've got code WARP15 for purchases at TRC online. You can find us on Instagram at WA Running Pod. Our email is warunningpodcast@gmail.com. And our Strava group is WARP. Matt and Nita, thank you so much for joining us. All the best with your training over the next few weeks, and we'll see you soon on the road to Kwinana Freeway.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
I just realized, Chris, that you didn't intro me at all. I'm literally just a button pusher. Why am I even on this record?
Simon Pham. I'm sorry, mate. That's very poor of me. I shouldn't have done
That's
that.
okay.
We can edit it in. We can.
Yeah. Well, I'll slot it at the start. Yeah, cool.
Why don't you guys shout out your OnlyFans? You do Instagram.
True. I'm keeping this in, by the way. This training series is brought to you by the Running Centre. Whether you're gearing up for Sydney, City to Surf, Melbourne, or the Perth Running Festival, the Running Centre is your destination for sports nutrition and all your running gear. Use code WARP15 at checkout to score 15% off all running gear and nutrition in store or online. The Running Centre. Let's move together.